Recognition, power, and influence is your birthright, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 236. Today's episode was inspired by the recent event award ceremony that I attend to celebrate one of my clients that you heard from on last week's podcast episode as an award recipient of the 2024 Silicon Valley Women of Influence Award. And as part of this ceremony, I really got thinking about what it means to celebrate women versus fix them, what it means to actually honor and appreciate, to ask women to come from the basic assumption that they are ambitious, that they want more, and at the very least, we need to ask them for that, rather than the go-to assumption that so often we have both as women and as men, that women need to be protected, that women need to be cared for, that women need to be taken care of. And instead of actually asking them if they want a higher level of responsibility, we make the assumption that if they wanted it, they would ask us. And I am here to disprove that, to change that, and to challenge that in each and every one of you. So let's get started.
Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out, because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you again this week. I am recording this episode on the heels of attending the Silicon Valley Women of Influence Awards ceremony last week in Santa Clara, California, and it was a fantastic ceremony, a fantastic celebration. But as I was sitting there listening to the award recipients, thinking about the environment and the impact of that single room alone on the leadership table, I decided to record an entire podcast episode dedicated to this particular award ceremony so that you can also learn from it. And as you start to also reflect on some of the atypical award ceremonies, and then also what the typical women's leadership approach is that I don't think is always useful for women as they advance into higher levels of leadership. One of my clients was actually an award recipient, so I got to sit right front and center and celebrate Sherry Begun being the recipient of that award, being a part of her leadership journey, not only helping her get promoted from senior director to vice president. Gosh, it's been over a year now, but also being able to witness and watch the magnificence of her leadership unfold as she finally trusted that her foundation, so to speak, was in order, meaning that she's excellent at her job. She, of course, has ups and downs and challenges that we're able to coach through in real time and really make practical application and changes to how she's approaching her team, how she is managing up, how she is navigating her own personal career choices. But because we're able to address those situations in real time, now she's able to let go and mentor and impact other women in her way. So I'm always recommending that you get your foundation in order. You sort of step into, I know all of you are fantastic managers, and I want you to have that step-by-step process of executive leadership. As you probably also know, at the same time, I am celebrating the Summer of Magic. What is the Summer of Magic? It is a celebration of over 432 promotions that happen as part of the summer of 2024. So even while we are on vacation, while our bosses are on vacation, while we might be focused and entertaining other things in our career and thinking, you know what, my performance review is not until November. I'll step back into my career path, my career journey then, when my boss comes back to the office, when I come back to the office, when my children are settled in school. Instead, there are so many women who are continuing to receive recognition even while they're on vacation. So I am dedicated to celebrating over 432 of them. Mostly this is taking place on LinkedIn, so you can follow me there. I'll be doing interviews with some of the women throughout the summer. I'll be offering advice to you both on this podcast and on LinkedIn. Make sure you connect with me at Stacy Mayer so that you can be a part of that. And if you are somebody who is promoted during the summer, or you know somebody who is promoted into a higher level leadership position, you can direct message me, or you can hashtag me at Summer of Magic 2024 because I want to celebrate them as well. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is because as I was sitting at this award ceremony, I realized, I know that the Summer of Magic is impactful. It started out 2 years ago as just an experiment to actually test myself and see how many women that I could personally coach to get promoted, even with all of the, I want to say chaos, but I think it's a different level of chaos that happens during the summer where everybody seems to be really scattered. And the idea of having a very direct, forward-facing, very clear promotion pathway doesn't make sense. Plus, typically speaking, promotions aren't announced in the summer. They're usually announced in the spring and the fall. And so it's even more impossible for people to think about getting promoted during the summer. So it's really a checkout period. And so that's kind of how it started. But what the impact that it's actually making right now, 3 years into this, is that I'm realizing that the pure act of celebrating women and celebrating their accomplishments, not all of the things they need to work on, is not normal. This is actually going against the grain. The fact that I am purely celebrating women and their promotions that they've already received, the recognition that they've received, is not normal. And the reason that I know it's not normal is because, one, the women who I celebrate are so incredibly appreciative. They're shocked. They're happy to receive this extra notoriety. They feel like, yes, I did work very hard to get here. And thank you, Stacy, for helping other people see that. Helping other people see that having me in a leadership position really matters. And so I see the shock and the confusion, but then I also see, especially on a place like a platform like LinkedIn, which is so much about learning and mentorship, that we're talking down to women. We're talking to them as if they're broken, as if they need to be fixed. And if you've been following me for a while, I love calling everybody who listens to this podcast, all of my clients, corporate badasses, because you are excellent at your job. There might be some refinement that we need to do. We might need to elevate your decision-making, the influence that you're actually having on your team, the ability to pull yourself out of the weeds and to be that higher level strategic thinker, the ability to manage your emotions so you can actually take a deep breath and present to the board your thoughts and your ideas rather than just regurgitating a PowerPoint presentation. All of those things are refinements, but for the most part, you are ready. You are ready now, today, to step into that higher level leadership position. And it's so important for us to recognize that and to believe that about ourselves, because that is not the norm. So when you look at LinkedIn as a learning platform, it's mostly talking about how, one, we deserve that voice, which is true. But then on the other side, it's like, this is what you need to fix. This is how you can speak up more. This is how you can negotiate for a higher salary. This is what we need to do as women to band together to fight the system. So all of the things, how to overcome imposter syndrome, everything that we need to do better as women is being pushed on us every single day, and also at work as well. If you want to step up, if you want to really own being a high potential leader, you have to do all of this stuff. And so to just purely celebrate as part of the Summer of Magic, 432 women who have received that recognition, and just to honor them and let more people know about the impact that they're making is huge. Same thing happened at the Silicon Valley Women of Influence Awards ceremony. This was an incredible example of a conference, quote unquote, so to speak, a gathering of leaders. There were probably about 500 or 600 people in this room here to celebrate the 100 women who have received this award as part of this celebration. And all of these women were anywhere from a senior manager all the way up to the president of San Jose State School of Engineering. And they were all so incredibly powerful. You could tell just by their presence, but also so humble and grateful and there to support and encourage other women. And the pure focus of this award ceremony was just simply to celebrate them. That was it. And I've been at so many women's leadership conferences over the years, and that part, that celebration part, is completely skipped. The whole reason for the Women's Leadership Conference is to tell women what to do. So we get this opportunity to sit in a room and be told how to fix our imposter syndrome, how to speak up more, how to take bigger risks, how to find a mentor. If you could find that mentor to help your career, then you'll get better. And we don't take the time to really just celebrate women and their accomplishments. You know, we talk about the financial impact on organizations when they have more diversity in leadership, but we talk about it. And award ceremony like this is really just meant to celebrate. And I'm pointing this out and really dedicating this entire podcast episode to that pure celebration of the power of women. And if we can do more of that, just purely celebrate, not to fix them, but to celebrate them and their awesomeness, we will have more women in leadership. They are corporate badasses. You are a corporate badass. You deserve, you need to be celebrated every single day. And I could feel it. It was palpable. I was sitting at the table with Sherry and her boss and her peers. And what I noticed is that a lot of her peers who are also at the vice president level, they didn't say this. I inferred this. But I'm sure through watching this ceremony, they were like, I could be up there. I can receive an award next year. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's make that happen. You are going to be on that stage next year receiving your award. I love it that so many women have already put on their LinkedIn profile award recipient of the Silicon Valley Woman of Influence Award. Like, that is so incredible and it matters. It is so, so, so exciting. You might be listening to this and be like, well, yeah, they received an award. That is amazing. And so I want you to start visualizing yourself as that awards recipient. You are already capable of receiving that award. You are already ready to step into that higher level leadership position. Now, I wrote Promotions Made Easy, a step-by-step guide to the executive suite, as actually anti-women's leadership conferences, because I really wanted to give you a step-by-step guide to the executive suite. Like literally, so I'm sitting here talking about we need to get over the fact that we need to fix ourselves. So yes, remember that. We need to get over the facts that we need to be fixed, that we need to be a better manager, and realize that there are some very simple and doable and concrete tools that you can begin to implement and change today to get yourself into a higher level leadership position. I am telling you, as a person who has witnessed, as a person who has supported so many women through these practical steps. It's a 5-step executive promotion process completely outlined in my book, telling you what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, so that you can get yourself promoted into that position, so that you can begin to be like Sherry and lift other people up into higher level leadership positions. You become that woman changing women. You become a woman supporting women. Now, you probably already have an element of supporting women now, but imagine if you were sitting as a vice president, as a senior vice president, if you really did have that influence and how many more women you could impact. Imagine if you got your house in order, so you had a process, you were constantly thinking, I wonder what I could be doing more. I wonder how to have a meeting with my CEO. I don't even know what I would say to her. You stop wondering, you figure out what to say to her, you start having those meetings, and now you feel inspired to help other women. And you're also in that position of influence and power so that you can truly bring up other women into higher level leadership positions. Something that was really interesting, because there were so many award recipients, they brought each woman onto stage and they asked her to do a 6-word memoir. So this was something that Sherry and I actually worked on as part of our coaching session before her opportunity to get up there and give her speech. And we had a really fantastic conversation around what matters to her, what she wants to impart, what she wants to share with other women. And there was just such an incredible variety of statements that were made as part of the award recipients, like anywhere from, where's my dessert? And obviously that's not 6 words, but I'm paraphrasing her 6 words, but something to make people laugh, people who were honoring their team, people who were honoring their families, people who were honoring their organizations and the impact that their organization is making. But the ones that really stood out to me were the ones who honored and supported and were somewhat directive to the male sponsors in the room to really help and support other women to advance into these higher levels. And so I want to share with you what Sherry actually said as her 6-word memoir. She said, "She wants more, just ask her. She wants more. Just ask her." And when we were working on this, we actually had a much softer version of that said, "Don't assume, ask her anyways." And where this came from was there were many times in Sherry's career, and also now that she is a mentor to others, where women are just flat out not asked, because we make so many assumptions about women and what they want or what they don't want that we forget to just ask them, "What do you want?" Or, and I have another client who has a lot of support and they're constantly asking her, "What do you want? What do you want?" And this has become another project that she has to take on to figure out what she wants. But the truth is that if you are a leader in a position of power, you might have something for her. You might be able to offer her a project, an opportunity for promotion, a chance to work with a leader in a different part of your organization, but yet you're worried because maybe the travel component, or you think, oh, she just had a baby and maybe she's not interested in this. I actually have a client who is getting ready to go on maternity leave, and her boss said to her, "Hey, can I give you a call on maternity leave? I might have an opportunity for you." He's not saying to her, "Hey, I'm going to make you come back from maternity leave early and lose time with your family, but I'm wondering, and I want to actually get your permission before I just assume, and one, make the phone call, but also to let you know that I might have an opportunity for you." Like, that is an incredible example. And so when Sherry tweaked her 6-word memoir to say she wants more, just ask her, it is coming from that basic assumption that most of us as women truly want to have that voice at the table. We are corporate badasses, but we have been burned so many times that we have irrational boundaries set up in place. So we have boundaries that are set up from systemic programming. So that boundary might be that the person doesn't want to hurt you, or the person doesn't want to put you in a position where you might fail. So typically speaking, a very common gender bias is that the men above us want to take care of us. They view us as their mom, a bunch of BS, or their wife, and they want to protect us. That's back from the caveman days. I'm sure it is primal in our brains to want to protect the women around us. But the problem is that we as women no longer need protection. Unfortunately, so many of us, though, feel like the way that we have to go to get that protection is to put a very hard-walled boundary in place. I was reading a LinkedIn post from a woman who said that a very similar story where she received a phone call when she was out on maternity leave from her boss that had an incredible promotion opportunity for her and wanted to know if she was interested. So this is an excellent example of she wants more, just ask her. she did accept that opportunity, was able to do a little bit of work while she was on maternity leave to then set herself up to step into this role, which ended up changing the trajectory of her career. But it has to come from that assumption that she wants more. Just ask her. When we see the men in our life and we see their sort of aggressive, pushing, their confident personalities, we make the assumption that they want more. Just ask them. But with women, so often we don't, because women aren't leading with that more forward, ambitious personality type. And even if they are, some of the men can't handle that. So they can't handle that directness. So then therefore it has that idea of like, simmer down. They don't really know what they want. And this particular woman said yes to the role and, Eve came back after maternity leave, stepped into that role. And there was such a flood of LinkedIn comments in the negative. Like, why did you do this to your baby? Why did you do this to your family? It's not right for us as leaders to put that on women, to force them to come back early. We have laws in place so that women have that protection, because so often we were forced to come back to, and we still are. Oh my God, I think maternity leave is a truly messed up system. And because we don't have a government mandate, so many women are forced to come back to work early. And so these laws are put into place to help us have that level of protection. The problem is that if we don't actually ask the woman and give them an option, then we're making assumptions on their behalf. We're actually deciding for them. And I want to stop that. I advocate for asking them, for creating, and not just asking them being like, here's your ultimatum. You either come back from maternity leave or you don't, or whatever, or you take this assignment or you move to Texas or you don't, then you don't get this role. But more like, how can we make this work for you? Because we want you in that position. And so now I want to move on to, there are so many women who listen to this podcast that don't have direct children. And I want to give some examples, like very similar to that you move to headquarters example, or you can't get a promotion. I have a lot of clients that have to navigate that problem because they're being told very specifically. The thing is that leader is not actually asking them to do that role. They're demanding that they do something. This is very different than creating a path, co-creating a path forward with that women. And that's where I come in. And through a lot of my coaching, I teach women, okay, so why do they want you to be in Texas? And why do they want you to move? And then we can make an intelligent decision on either one. Are they going to be able to do their job successfully if they don't move, if they don't travel all the time, if they don't work 80 hours a week? And in some instances, the answer is no. And then you make that decision. You say, you know what? I don't even want to work for this company. I don't want to work as part of this environment. And what else can I do instead to go out and find a better fit role for myself? Or I decide to negotiate and to be very confident with my skill set and why they need me in that role. And this is what I'm going to do instead. So for a lot of the women who are navigating something like maternity leave, I am coaching them on, yes, traditionally left to your own devices, you are going to come back after maternity leave and take a step back. You're losing 6 months of time, but that is just with no effort, like traditionally speaking. But we can put a strategy in place that not only do you not lose that time, but you get promoted while you're on maternity leave. You get promoted as part of the Summer of Magic while you are on vacation. When we have that strategy in place, you can literally create magic all around you. This has happened over and over and over again for my clients. We are creating that position. She wants more. Just ask her. We are setting ourselves up to be successful in that way. And so I want to just challenge you as you're listening to this. So if you are the giver, so maybe you are somebody who makes assumptions about your team and you feel like you don't want to bother somebody. Oh, let me give you another example that I wanted to share. There was a woman who really wanted to be promoted to the vice president of engineering role, and she had been advocating for that. She was totally set up from a technical perspective to be very successful in that role. And finally, she had a very direct conversation with the hiring manager, and he said, look, I can't do this to you. It is all men. They're all very aggressive men. You don't want to be a part of this environment. Just figure out something else to do with your career. And instead of backing down, she said, no, I do want to be a part of it. And this is how I'm going to work with those masculine personalities. My husband even admits that when he works on a team of all men, that they act like assholes. And when he has a woman on his team, he's like, they tend to act a little bit less aggressive. And he appreciates that. He's like, we need more women on this team because these guys are out of control. And so you want to make sure that you're not making that assumption that this woman cannot handle it. And from the woman's perspective, I want to set her up to be successful. I don't want her to rock into that role and get eaten alive, quote unquote. And so I'm going to have to give her tools to communicate her vision, to make sure that she can be in charge, that she can be respected, that she sits in that leadership role and truly has that voice. And that is what this woman did. So stop making assumptions. She wants more. Just ask her. And really think about ways that you are celebrating women. Are you constantly trying to fix them? Are you constantly trying to fix yourself, get better? Or are you ready to step into that higher level leadership position? Instead of trying to fix yourself, think about all of the ways that you are not just qualified now, but why you want it, why it's important, the boundaries that you do have in place to be successful, the strategy. If you haven't read Promotions Made Easy, go out and get my book and figure out a way to get yourself into a position of power and influence, because we need you at that leadership table. If I was going to create any type of conference, I would create an award ceremony similar to the Silicon Valley Women of Influence Awards. I would create an opportunity for us to truly empower and support other women, to recognize ourselves on that stage, to provide access to say, I am just like you, and here is how I did it. This is my step-by-step guide. This is the book that I read. Sherry said that every single mentee that she has, the first assignment she gives them is to read my book. You can read it in a weekend's time. And then she goes on to help them figure out how to actually apply what's in the book. This is what I actually do with my one-on-one clients, is I teach you how to apply what you're learning on this podcast in real time. I want to see more women in positions of power and influence. You are ready. We need to teach other people around us to ask us and to really dedicate ourselves to overcoming those obstacles, to figuring out, okay, this is how I'm going to create more solid boundaries through ease, to really say, you know what, I am ready. I don't need to have this rigid boundary in place that says, hey, this is how I don't get sucked in again. But that truly, I know my power, I know my worth, and I am ready for that higher level leadership position. And I'm going to figure out the obstacles along the way. I am very clear on what I want and how to make that happen. Thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to see you in a higher level leadership position, and let's talk more next week. Bye. Before you go, I have a question for you. Do you know how close you are to your next promotion? Really? Not what your boss has told you, not what you even believe to be true, but have you actually taken the time to sit down, take an assessment, review the 5 categories that it takes to get promoted into senior executive leadership positions, and decided where you fall in each category, and given yourself a ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 of how close you are to getting your next promotion? Have you done this? Well, now's your chance. If that feels interesting to you and you're like, hey, I want to know exactly how close I might actually be, or how far away you might be, and what it's going to take to get you even closer, then I invite you to take my promotability quiz. This is a quiz that I put together with practical tips that actually tell you where you're lacking and where you're winning. What are the areas that you actually need to improve and not necessarily what your boss is telling you all the time, so that you can take concrete steps towards landing that next promotion and changing the face of the leadership table. Go to yourpromotabilityscore.com to take your free assessment today. Yourpromotabilityscore.com, and let me know how it goes.